they're doing what they call the 400 class. Get rid of you.
One thing I do like about my tablet is I can run my Spotify offline. So I've got all my tunes, all my tunes running.
Yeah, no, stuff like that's really, really huge. God, I mean, look at, there's just so much stuff.
And Google Maps
here.
I can run on my console also.
Global settings, your torque, speed values, slew rates, proportional limits, interlock enable, motor activation. This is just kind of like an input delay. It's really weird. There's some stuff in here we don't completely understand, like why you would have that. Pedal setup. You can do dual channel or wig-wag. You could do 5 volt or 12 volt.
What's wig-wag?
Wig-wag is for boats, so that usually sits at 2.5 volts. If you go forward, it goes above 2.5 volts, and if you go reverse, it goes below 2.5. So it changes direction with the throttle. You can create all your own maps, so they don't have to be linear. Same with braking. You actually have a brake transducer map, which is pretty crazy. So again, doesn't have to be linear. You have all these points. Parking brake enable, torque mode, speed limits. So if you're in reverse, we can maximize it. Oh, see, so that just bonked out. My hand hit the USB cable here.
Oh,
and that's serial for you, right? If it doesn't talk, if it has an issue, it will just bonk out. All right, in here, we're on speed limits and torque limits. So this is kind of neat. Like, we're going to use this in the race car, right? So you have a torque limit, and you have all these tabs. So you have bidirection, by analog, by digital, by display, or other. So on our steering wheel, we're going to have a button that you can hit that will actually limit your speed for the pit, like a pit limit button, right? And so you would go in here, and you just assign digital input, and you just say, let's put that on digital input 7. And we're going to limit our speed, and we know what it is ahead of time. 3,300 RPM is going to give us 60 miles an hour. And that's it. And then we would save that. Now you have a button on the steering wheel. You can press the button, and it will limit your speed for the pit. So you'll be limited to whatever it is, 37 mile an hour, 60 mile an hour for the pit. You can do it by the display. There's actually a turtle key on the display. If you turn this on, you can hit the turtle key, and it will slow you down. And then there's other means. I can't remember. So operating profile and low battery indicator. Torque limits. You can define torque limits. So if you want to hold it back, you can set a new map just with an analog input. And what's this? Oh, these are brake outputs for if you're doing electromagnetic. Sometimes they'll put a brake on the tail of the motor, and you can run it off a solenoid. Hill hold, steering angle, steering contactor. There's just so much stuff in here. And then the original motor setup, where you have a global control, the motor. One of the important things in here, one of the most important things, is setting up the spin sensor. And this offset is different for every motor. And so you have to look up, NetGain keeps this stuff. They have motor serial number maps, and they know what the offset angle is, and then you enter that into the firmware. So the interesting thing about this firmware is it won't work on every motor. It depends on where the sensor is sitting.
With the Hyper 9, it's going to be the same
so
every
Hyper 9, the position sensor is clocked differently.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying every Hyper 9 is different?
Every Hyper
It's not
9,
like...
They're all the same, but the position sensor is clocked a little differently. And they measure it to the 100th of a degree. So
that's within a degree or two?
Right. So you would take this firmware and change it to your degree, and then flash that. Now...
but it's always going to be like, whatever, 45 by half a degree one way or the other. Is it always going to be like 45 plus or minus?
No.
It's going to be all over?
Fucking
anywhere?
All over the
Wow.
place, yeah, all over the place.
So much for uniformity.
Right. So if you click on this link here, this will give you all the serial numbers of all the motors.
Get that URL. Like that.
Yeah. Downloads code file.
Yeah, I think
So,
I've seen this.
yeah. And then the firmware letter is the second letter, so you'd call this firmware D.
Okay.
So, and we're hoping for another one soon to fix a couple other just small drivability issues.
Is there some sort of tweak that could get rid of that shuttering? Does it matter?
Not that I know of.
Can we get the Hyper 9 right now? And then the chill plate.
Oh, that's not the EV West one. That would be, unless you want a Curtis chill plate.
No,
Or-
not for the.
You want the Hyper 9 chill
Yeah,
plate. Yeah,
yeah.
that's a Hyper 9 chill plate.
Yeah.
So that's wrong. That just needs to be changed to Hyper 9.
And I'm gonna grab that copy.
Yeah, you're going to take one, yeah?
Yes.